Here we're on the front of our Sonic by Venture. We're going to go through and do a technical walkthrough or tutorial like you would get with the technician on the date of delivery of the unit, and go through, touch on these components, give you some do's, don'ts, how everything works, and a few tips along the way. If you want more information on these items or other items, because your unit may have a different brand name on them, or these items may have deeper diagnostics I can go through, you can find that in our HAPS Helpful Hacks section on our YouTube channel. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe for us. That's always greatly appreciated. We're going to start in the front here. We have our 7-way plug. 7-way plug transfers all of your lights, your turn signals, all that stuff over to the trailer from your towing vehicle. It's also going to have a battery charge line that pulls off the alternator of the vehicle and charges your battery while you're traveling down the road. Last thing is our brake control wire. That brake control wire is going to send the signal from your brake controller to your brakes on your trailer whenever you initiate them, and letting it know that it needs to initiate the brakes on the trailer. Speaking of brakes, we're going to have this lanyard right here. This lanyard needs to loop and connect to your receiver hitch itself, where you hook your safety chains up. Not to the actual hitch or anything like that, to the receiver hitch itself, because the idea is if the hitch ever breaks, then this will pull out of that breakaway box and it will activate the brakes on our trailer. Now that's only going to happen if we have a good solid 12 volts on our trailer. That means that our battery has to be in good shape, otherwise those brakes aren't going to activate. So make sure we have a good battery, it's charged up, and we also need to make sure that this pin is inserted in that box at all times. Otherwise those emergency brakes are going to be active while you're going down the road. Next thing is our 12-volt powered ton jack right here with our stabilizer system. This is the BAL SS 5.1. We're going to go over more information on that right now. So this is our BAL stabilizer system 5.1. We can go ahead and hit the power button on there. Everything will light up. We'll notice the light lights up on that jack as well. When we're ready to go ahead and level out our unit, when we're ready to go ahead and operate our system, we'll start with just the tongue jack. We'll hit extend or retract. It will start blinking. We hold down tongue jack and it will begin to operate that jack system. If we want to extend, hit extend. Same thing, it will operate that system. Now, if we want to go ahead and operate all of the jacks, we can once again hit extend or retract, hit all stab jacks, and that system will start dropping down all of our jacks on our unit. Now these are just stabilizer jacks on our system. If we want to level our unit, we'll need to get those stacker blocks and put them under our tires to level it from left to right, and use our tongue jack option to level it from front to back. These are stabilizers meant to stabilize your unit, not level it. If we use them to level it and try to lift this camper up off the ground or more than it should be, the weight rating will overbear those stabilizer jacks. It will bend them and break them, and manufacturers aren't going to participate in that kind of damage. You do have an override system on here. This little cap can be removed. You can put your crank handle in here and manually operate that. You also have some overrides using a crank handle on those stabilizer jacks as well to get you out of the jam in the event anything happens. I also have some directions and quick reference guide up here on the lid of your jack system. Behind that is our dual propane tanks. Our dual propane tanks have a dual propane regulator on them. We'll have both tanks on. We have that regulator, has a selector switch on it. We choose which tank we want to be our primary. We go ahead and use our propane. If that primary tank ever runs dry, it will automatically swap over to our secondary tank, kick in and start pulling off of that one. Now the tank that you have selected, it will show a signal on there, more likely red, letting you know that tank is empty. At which point you can turn that selector switch over to the other tank, and we can then refill that former primary tank or have it replaced. Behind that tank system is our battery storage as well as our battery disconnect. Our battery disconnect is used when we store our unit. When we store it unplugged, we want to turn that disconnect off so it doesn't drain the battery with the components on the inside. Whenever we are using it, anytime it is plugged in, we want that battery disconnect on in order to operate. On the driver's side, we're going to notice pass-through bay storage right here. We're going to notice that we have a little bolt sticking out of our stabilizer on each side. That is for our override on our system. We can take that rod, stick it on there, and manually operate that system if we ever have an issue with the motors on it. As we move down the driver's side, we'll see our fresh tank fill right here. We can pull that cap off, stick a hose in there, and manually fill our fresh tank. Our fresh tank is our onboard water storage that we can take with us if we're going to a campsite that doesn't have a water hookup, or if we're using it while we're traveling, whatever the case may be, we can kick that 12-volt pump on, and that will pull the water out of that tank to our fixtures inside the unit. Now keep in mind, this adds extra weight to your unit, so if you don't need all that water, you don't have to fill it up all the way, only take what you need, and when you're not using it, drain that water out so it doesn't become stagnant from just sitting there over time. In order to do that, we have this line down here at the bottom with a valve on it. We open up that valve, and that'll drain the water out of that fresh tank. We have our Suburban furnace right here. This is the output for it. We'll go over instruction on how that furnace operates on the inside. It is propane that heats it, and it also needs 12 volts in order to operate. We have our 30-amp twist lock power supply right here. We insert it, turn it to the right, lock it in, and that will initiate power once we have it plugged into our shore power over there. We always want to plug this in and first put that little retainer ring on there to keep it from accidentally being pulled out, then plug it into our shore power over there to reduce arcing over here whenever we plug it in. We don't want it powered up prior. We also want to make sure that our AC system is turned off so we don't have any surges to those appliances. Behind that, we have our shower, our outdoor shower. We open that up, hot and cold on our shower. We also have our city water connection right there. That city water connection is if we do have a water hookup at the campground, run our water hose over there, we hook it up, and then just turn it on. You have water to your fixtures on the inside. We don't need to have our water pump on when we have city water. Lastly, over there we have our black tank flush, which we'll touch on a little bit more whenever we go into our tank system down there at the bottom. But we also have our Furrion tankless water heater at the very end, 12 volt to power it up, and propane to heat that water. Let's touch on our sewage system. All right, so our sewage hookup right here, if we have the port there at the campground, we'll go ahead and have that hose hooked up all the time. If we don't, of course, we're gonna hold our tanks closed until we get to a dump station and then dump them. So assuming that we have the water hookup there at the campground, we have a gray tank and a black tank. Our gray tank is our shower and sink water. We can leave that valve open all the time so we don't have to constantly come out here and drain it. That will generally fill up fairly quick. Our black tank, however, that's everything from our toilet. That's our sewage, toilet paper, so on and so forth. We need to keep that valve closed, and we always need to make sure we have several gallons of water in there. Reason being is the debris, the sewage that's in there will dry up in that tank, and it's dang near impossible to get it out. So we want to make sure we leave that valve closed so water stays in there, and we need to add chemicals to help get rid of all that stuff in there. So when we are ready to flush, we have our sewer hose hooked up. Of course, we pull that black tank valve, we open it up, we let everything start draining out. We get a water hose, we hook it up to our black tank flush right there. That's going to send water over to a jet port on the other side of the tank and help push any debris, sewage, so on and so forth down that tank over to this valve and help flush out that system. Now when we're satisfied, we disconnect our black tank flush, we shut that valve, we go in the inside to our toilet, we hold that pedal down for several gallons, to add several gallons of clean fresh water in there. Then we add our chemicals in there to make sure we're helping get rid of anything that might be left in there, as well as go ahead and keep that tank smelling clean. You're still going to end up with some debris on the wall. Adding that water in there while you're traveling down the road will help knock some of that stuff down. Chemicals will help deteriorate all that. Flush it again if you wish. We do have more tips on how to flush your black tank on your system. This is how the owner's manual is going to tell you to do it. We got some pro tips in our HAPS Helpful Hacks section. You might want to check that out. Last thing under here is a red and blue line. Those are your low point drains. We're going to use those when we winterize our unit. We would drain all the water out of our system. You have more information on winterization in your owner's manual, as well as video on HAPS Helpful Hacks. We also have that vent up there in the kitchen that is over our stove for our hood range vent. We want to make sure that is open. We have 2 tabs on the inside. In order for that air to ventilate out, we just open those 2 tabs right there. If we want to close them during storage, we can to prevent any insects or rodents from building any nests. On the back of our unit, of course, we are pre-wired for that Furrion backup camera system. If we want to add that in there, see behind us while we're traveling down the road or backing up, it is pre-wired for power right there. We turn our running lights on, it'll power up that system. Nice upgrade there. We also have our satellite hookup as well as our cable hookup. That will lead to our TVs on the inside. Our bumper caps can be pulled off so we can store our sewer hose on there if we wish. Now we don't have a factory supply ladder on this unit, but you need to gain access to your roof to be able to check the sealants on your roof, as well as you need to check the sealants on your trim around your lights, windows, anywhere where you've seen a hole put in the side of your unit. You need to check the sealant on it. We're checking the sealant in all locations because we want to make sure there's no peeling, cracking, or deterioration of that sealant to ensure that no water is getting in our system. But this needs to be done every 60 to 90 days. I promise you, your owner's manual says so. Whether it's under a cover or not, check this because water can still get in there and that will deteriorate your camper. We want to make sure that that doesn't happen because manufacturers aren't going to participate in that kind of repair if we're not maintaining our unit. So very important we take care of this. That way our camper will last for years to come. In our front storage compartment on the passenger side, we do have a switch that operates our front cap lights, and we're also pre-wired for the LCI tire monitoring system, that tire link system. The power is already ran. If we want to purchase the monitor and the sensors that go on the tires, we can upgrade and be able to monitor that while we're traveling down the road. We're also going to have our 12-volt awning out here. That awning is mainly a sunshade. You allow a little bit of rain on there. But when we use it, we always need to make sure that it's pitched in the event that we have water accumulate on that awning. We want to make sure that water can get off. It's really easy to do. We can do it on the front here or on the rear, whichever you prefer that water drain off on. Grab it right here in the middle, pull it down, and now our awning is pitched and that water can run off of that awning. If we don't do that, that water can compile on the awning, cause it to collapse, and that is not going to be covered under warranty. That would be insurance claims. So we want to make sure that we go ahead and pitch it. When we're ready to roll it in, push it back up. Now, if you have heavy rain, we need to go ahead and roll that awning in. Heavy winds, bad storm coming in, leaving our camper for an extended period of time, you're better off rolling that awning in because I promise you, you'll end up with the insurance claim that you don't want to deal with. So make sure we're taking care of our awning. We're being cautious about when we have it out. It's also a 12-volt component as well as our awning lights. If we have any issues, we'll show you where the 12-volt fuse panel is. You can check and see if any fuses are blown. Last couple things out here is we have our outdoor cable hookup as well as our 110 GFCI outlet out here for our outdoor TV. The outside outlet as well as any other wet locations like in your kitchen, bathroom are all going to be controlled by that main GFCI. We'll touch on when we get to the inside. That's where we'll go if those outlets aren't working. Down here we also have a quick connect LP hookup if we want to add an outdoor grill. It does have a little lever on it. That lever is generally off. In order to hook up that quick connect on there, the lever will have to be off. We have to turn it on once we hook up our quick connect for that flow to come out. Turn it back off to disconnect the quick connect. You will notice on your entry door a little resistance when you open and close it. That is our friction controlled hinges on there, meant to keep that door from being slammed by the wind or kids, whatever the case may be. We have our solid steps right here. Our solid steps are really great. We need to make sure that our door is all the way open. In order to do that, our awning will have to be closed on this particular unit. So our solid steps, we go ahead and flip up, lock them in, and pull that little blue lever to make sure that it latches around that frame. The reason our door needs to be all the way open is that bracket right there so it doesn't skin up that door. Nice, easy way to keep that from getting damaged. When we use our steps, we need to make sure that we level our unit left to right, front to back, then come over here and level our steps. That can be done with these silver tabs on each side. We go ahead and put our steps down, push that silver tab in, and we can adjust our legs up and down. We want to do this so we have a nice flat threshold right here for our door to close properly. And we also want to make sure that our step frame isn't making contact with the bottom of that door, causing any damage. Right when we walk in the door, we'll see a switch right here at the bottom that is for our awning as well as our porch lights and our interior lights there. Up above, we have a GFCI outlet as well as our USB ports right there for charging. In order to get to our Murphy bed system, or lay it down rather, we lift up the bottom of this couch, lay it down flat. That is a sleeping option as it is. Go to our Murphy bed option there. We drop it down, rest this on the couch, drop our mattress down in order to restore it, flip it back up. Of course, we need to make sure our travel latch is in there, and then we can lift our sofa back up and have our seating back. Our dinette booth can drop down into a bed. We have two poles underneath. Pull that top off, remove the two poles, set the table down on the bumpers there, and we move our cushions over to go ahead and have that extra sleeping space. Our TV right here is equipped with an antenna boost. We'll notice on this left side right here, we have where our coax connection hooks up. There'll be a little button. When we push that button off and on, that light will turn on. That will give that antenna boost to pick up more channels in the area that you're at. when we scan for channels for antenna. Now, of course, if we have a cable hookup at the campground, we can hook that up, scan for cable channels on our TV, and if we do that, we need to make sure that antenna boost is off so it doesn't scramble the channels coming in from that signal. Also back there, we'll have a little plate that says King on it. That is if we want to add a wireless router to our system. We can have Wi-Fi with us wherever we go. If we do that upgraded subscription, we can go ahead and have that in there. It is pre-wired for that system. Over to my left, we have our 110 microwave as well as our hood range vent. We talked about the one outside. We need to make sure that vent is open so it'll actually ventilate out. We have our 3-burner stove with a glass cooktop. We have down for more counter space. We also need to have it down when we travel so that glass doesn't break. In order to use it, we go ahead and flip that cover up. We have our 3-burner stove. We make sure our propane is on. Pick our designated stove, turn it to the flame icon, hit our striker until it lights, and we turn it to high or low. Now we'll notice these knobs light up red. That is to let you know that gas is being emitted out of that system. Kids playing around and stuff, it's a good notification that, hey, that system is on. We need to turn it off if it's not lit. Switch right here will turn them blue. They still turn red. We flip it down, it'll light up our oven as well. Now the thing about our propane is our propane can get air in the system. This generally happens whenever we store our unit. We turn our tanks off. Whenever we do that, we'll end up getting air in our system, or if we have to change our tanks because we ran out of propane, you'll end up with air in the system. Really easy thing to go ahead and fix is we come over to our stove after we turned our tanks on, and we just light that stove. Once we've lit it, we go ahead and run it for about 60 seconds. Generally take that long to get a nice clear blue ring around that burner, and then we can pretty well assure that we've got the air out of that propane system. We want to do that before we operate things like our furnace or our water heater. That otherwise those things will go into a fault if we have air in the system. So that's just the easiest way to fix that issue before we end up having one. Down below we have our oven. Our oven can be kicked on by turning the knob to the right to the flame icon, but we have to keep pushing that knob while we initiate the striker. We initiate that striker until the pilot lights. We hold it down for another 15-20 seconds, and then we pull off and we turn to our temperature. When we do that, that burner tube should light up, and we can go ahead and close our door and start cooking. If it didn't light, we need to go ahead and relight that pilot and let it sit for a little bit longer before we go ahead and initiate it. Now our oven will still take a little bit of time even after we bled the air out of that system because it's a smaller orifice, so be patient whenever lighting that system. Down below we have our furnace. That's where our hot air will come out of our system when we initiate our furnace. Once again, we'll still go over that whenever we hit our thermostat here in the back. Down below our fridge we have our 110 and 12 volt control center right here. We'll see our 110 breakers, our 12 volt fuses. Everything is labeled so we know what everything is going to. We come here in the event that we have any issues that with some of that system that isn't working. We're also going to have our converter in here. It's not uncommon to hear that fan running whenever you're plugged into your shore power. That converter is basically a battery charger charging your battery. That's why it's important to have that disconnect on. So it's perfectly fine if you hear that fan running in there. It's just cooling off that system. We have our Coleman AC up here, operational by our ceiling assembly. We have our low cool, high cool, as well as high fan, low fan. Fan is only going to operate the fan and circulate air in here. It's not going to cool it. We have to turn it to that low or high cool option in order to do that. We also have a thermostat right here from cool to colder. And then we also have a heat option on there that isn't going to come equipped. If we want to upgrade to that heating element in there, we can go ahead and turn and have that heat option. Otherwise, we're relying on our LP gas in order to operate. We do have filters here on the side. We pull those two tabs right there, pull that down. We need to clean those filters on a regular basis on each side to make sure we're not restricting the flow to the AC system. Our Furrion 12 volt refrigerator controlled by this knob right here on the inside. We can go from off to cold to colder. We also have an off-grid option on there as well. That off-grid option is obviously if we don't have our 110 hooked up somewhere, we're out boondocking, we can turn to that off-grid option and it will slow the work of the compressor. We need to keep in mind that we need to keep the doors closed as much as possible when we do that because that compressor isn't going to be working as hard to keep our goods cold in order to conserve energy. And one thing we need to remember about our freezer and our fridge is they don't have drain tubes on them, so we need to make sure we defrost the ice out of our freezer, open up our fridge, wipe down any condensation in there after we shut our system off. If If we don't do that, that water can leak out of here and damage our wood components around our fridge. Manufacturers aren't going to cover that type of item, so make sure we're defrosting it properly and maintaining our fridge. That will also help reduce the risk for mold and mildew in our system too. Over here we have our Suburban furnace, we have our Level Mate Pro, and we have our Go Power system right here for our solar. It is a 30 amp solar controller. We can go ahead and operate to go ahead and charge our battery system when we're not plugged in. We have good sunlight. We can go ahead and use that system. Not much to go over on that system, but we will touch on our Level Mate Pro as well as our Suburban thermostat right here. So we're going to walk you through how to operate this Level Mate Pro. We can see that our adjustments are right there in front of us. If we drop the front down, of course, we'll see the front drop, so on and so forth. But the objective is to continue to level this unit until we start to see that 0 come to life. We get a green, and then we are good to go. We can also set our hitch position. So once we are disconnected from our truck, we can see down here at the bottom, we can hit set, and that will set our hitch position right there. If we click yes, hitch position is set. So now after we have leveled our unit out, let's say we don't want to play that guessing game, right? So we bring our jacks up and we can control that front tongue jack. We hit recall here and it will adjust and let you know where that original hitch height was, and you can go up and down until you zero out there. Then you won't have to worry about trying to guess where that hitch height actually is. That wraps up everything on our Level Mate Pro. Here we'll find our thermostat for our Suburban gas operated furnace. Once again, another gas operated appliance. Want to make sure we bleed the air out of the system so we don't go into any faults. This is manually controlled. We take this dial up at the top, we slide it to that warmer knob until that furnace kicks on, and that chooses our appropriate temperature. System will kick on. Want to shut it off, just slide it over and the system will shut off. Your warm air is going to be coming through the vents on the floor of the unit. They're not going to come out of the rooftop, so keep that in mind. That's where you'll be looking for the heat to come out. Before we enter our bathroom, we'll notice our COLP detector right here. A little green light indicates that it is powered up. It's hardwired into our battery system, so it's going to be on all the time. It does have audible alarm on there when you want to test, make sure that that's working before we go camping. It does have an expiration date on the front or the back of it, letting you know when that system needs to be replaced. We're also going to have our smoke detector in our unit, powered by a 9-volt battery. We need to check the audible alarm on that, check that battery, make sure that it is good before we head out camping. In our bathroom, we have our tank monitor. We have our battery, our fresh tank, black tank, gray tank. You're going to have 2 tanks on this monitor, but you only have 1 on your unit. It's a generic panel. Just push that button, we'd see our lights light up right there, letting us know the level of that tank. We're also going to have that water pump switch that's going to pull from that fresh tank system that we talked about outside and supply water to our fixtures. Now, that pump only needs to be on when we are pulling from the fresh tank. We have city water, shut it off. It is an on-demand pump, so when we turn our faucets on, we're going to hear that pump initiate and prime our system. It'll run until we turn our faucets off. So if we hear that pump running and we're certain that all of our faucets are off, then we need to come over here, shut it off, and investigate. That means that either our fresh tank is empty or we have a leak somewhere in our system. We want to go ahead and check that out as soon as we can. We're also going to have our tank heater system. That is a 12-volt mat on our tanks that will go ahead and kick on in extreme cold weather. That way our tanks don't freeze up. Fogati water heater system. This is our control for that. We'll go over the information on that as well as how our GFCI operates as well. Our water heater system right here is pretty cut and dry. Turn it off and on, hit that power button. Change between Fahrenheit and Celsius, hit that button right there. And to change our set temperature, which is going to be the temperature of our water output, we can control that with our arrows right here. On-demand system, we turn our hot water on and it will initiate, turn on the flame, and begin to heat that water. Our GFCI outlet right here is going to control all those outlets in wet locations in our kitchen, outside, anywhere where you see a label saying GFCI protected. In the event that these outlets are overloaded with too many skillets, coffee makers, or anything of that nature, this system will trip. And also if those outlets get wet, this system will trip too. So this is where basically it's like a breaker on here. You have 2 buttons, your reset button, your test button. If we hit that test button, it's going to initiate like that system is tripped and it's going to kill all those outlets. In the event that happens and your system trips, we come over here, we hit that reset button, we'll see that green light pop back on and you're good to go. If it immediately trips again, then we want to go remove some of those appliances we have on there, or make sure that none of those outlets are wet. Last thing in our bathroom, of course, is our shower. We have our strap right here to keep that door closed during travel so the doors don't break. We have our hot and cold inside our shower there with an on-off lever on that faucet. On-off lever can be used when we are camping, dry camping. We don't have a port for our gray system, and we don't have much water to use out of our fresh tank system, so we're trying to conserve the amount of water we use as well as the amount of water we put into that system. Real easy, just flip that switch off and on. You don't have to worry about finding that sweet spot for the hot cold. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to. If you have your city water connection as well as a dump station there at the site, you don't need to. We also have that vent up there in the ceiling. Want to use that when we take a shower to help get the heat and humidity out of here, reduce the risk for mold and mildew. Lastly, we have our toilet down here at the bottom. Have that pedal right there to be able to flush it. Now, things that we're putting in our toilet is just number 1 and number 2, right? Plus, we have our toilet paper as well as our chemicals. Now, number 1 is just liquids. We can hit that pedal, flush it down the drain into our black tank. Our solids, number 2, we need to make sure that we fill this bowl half to 3/4 of the way with water, so it's enough water to flush that solid down into our black tank without any issues with the plumbing clogging up. Now, in order to do that, we barely push this pedal down here down, keep that valve closed at the bottom. That way it will start filling up with water before we flush that system. Now, lastly, we put in our RV toilet paper only. If we don't, that system is going to clog. It's not going to go ahead and deteriorate that toilet paper in that system, and you're going to have some issues down the road. So RV toilet paper only. And then we also put our chemicals in through our toilet to make sure that it is adding to help deteriorate any sewage in there as well as keep it smelling nice.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV Superstores, where we bring the how-to you.